Thank you for listening to my daddy's podcast.
Hey, don't let these tears fool you. There's all dog around this mug. I'm good.
Hey, what's going on, Who Dat Nation? It is yours truly, Timothy J. Jones. And yes, I am the host of the State of the Saints podcast. And thank you so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast, where we talk New Orleans Saints. Well, Who Dat Nation, we are back at it again. This is week number 2. The New Orleans Saints traveled to Arlington, Texas, to AT&T Stadium to take on the Dallas Cowboys, who come into the game 1-0 themselves. You know, both teams are coming off very impressive week 1 victories. The Dallas Cowboys knocked off the Cleveland Browns 33-17. And of course, we know the New Orleans Saints dominated the Carolina Panthers 47-10. But it doesn't seem like nobody is giving these teams credit for the effort they put towards in week 1. People are chunking it up, if you're a Dallas Cowboy fan, to the Cleveland Browns looking like an absolute train wreck and Deshaun Watson looking like a mere shell of himself. And, of course, we know the New Orleans Saints aren't getting credit for the victory over the Carolina Panthers because everybody feels like at this particular point that Bryce Young is a bust and the Carolina Panthers are a terrible football team. But all of that talk can go away with a victory today. Now, I'm pretty sure Dallas Cowboy fans, they got plenty of people in delusion land over there that's going to tell them that because they beat the Cleveland Browns, they won a Super Bowl. But over here, we're going to be talking a little bit about the New Orleans Saints and, you know, how this can match up for them. The New Orleans Saints, nobody's really expecting the New Orleans Saints to do anything this season. Most people are looking at this like they expected the Saints to win week 1 versus Carolina. Not in that fashion, but they were supposed to win. And now they're going into Arlington, and the chickens basically are going to come home to roost. The fact is the New Orleans Saints aren't going to win this football game. They're going to get dominated. They're going to get embarrassed. And Dallas is going to show them that they don't even need to be on the same field as them. But, you know, if I look at the tail of the tape, you know, I understand that the Dallas Cowboys are a good football team, but I feel like the New Orleans Saints can match up really, really well versus the Dallas Cowboys. I feel like the Saints have a really good chance of beating the Dallas Cowboys. I think that the New Orleans Saints have the talent to be able to match the firepower that the Dallas Cowboys are going to try to inflict on this game. But let's go ahead and take a look at how the New Orleans Saints can win this football game. It starts with them making sure that they control the line of scrimmage, making sure that they neutralize the running game between Ezekiel Elliott, Rico Dowdle, and Deuce Vaughn coming out of the backfield. He's kind of like that little short, you know, Darren Sproles type running back. But this guy is a very, very talented guy. And Rico Dowdle is more up the battering ram. They rely on Ezekiel Elliott to kind of run in between the tackles and catch the ball as well. But they got to be able to shut the running game down and put it into the hands of Dak Prescott. Now, I know that sounds crazy. Dak Prescott just got paid. He's making $60 million a year. But I've learned over the course of time that if Dak Prescott is throwing the football all over the place, I mean, you're going to at least get 1 or 2 opportunities where you can get your hands on a football for a pick. I think that you have to make sure that you start fast in this game if you're the Saints offense. You don't have to go out here and score in every possession like you did last week. But if you can go down there, you're maybe on the first drive, maybe set up a field goal just to kind of get your defense something to work with. But the Saints in no way can go down 14-0 versus the Dallas Cowboys. That is something that the New Orleans Saints had a reputation for before last week, starting too doggone slow. Like, you got to be able to hit the ground running. This Dallas Cowboy team have weapons all over the place, and they can put up points. And Dak Prescott will put the ball in a position where you can come down with it. He trusts his wide receivers, which the wide receivers, take a lot of pride in knowing that their quarterback trusts them to make plays. So I look for Dak Prescott to throw the ball up, hoping that CeeDee Lamb can come down with the 50-50 ball, throwing it over the top, hoping that Brandon Cooks can come down with it. I don't know the status of Jake Ferguson, the tight end. He's very talented, but I don't know if he's going to play today. But the New Orleans Saints have to play discipline. Like, it's okay that the Dallas Cowboys may get a conversion, right? But make sure that they don't hit their head on a goalpost. Make sure you're making sound, doing sound tackling. Make sure that you are communicating the best way possible in a very loud venue, which is the AT&T Stadium. But if they can do that, if they can shut down the run and put it into the hands of Dak Prescott, I believe that the New Orleans Saints have a chance of winning this football game. As far as the offensive line, look, I'm not going to keep on, telling you stuff that you already have heard. Look, we know that the offensive line of the New Orleans Saints still have question marks. This is going to be a tough matchup for them. But, I think that the New Orleans Saints can do some things to try to neutralize DeMarcus Lawrence as well as Michael Parsons on that line, as well as the other defensive linemen of the Dallas Cowboys. Those two guys get the most attention because DeMarcus Lawrence is really good and really talented. He can stop the run as well as get pressure on your quarterback. So the offensive line is going to have to make sure that they give Derek Carr time, because if they start off, I'm talking the Dallas Cowboys, start off going after Derek Carr in this game and he starts to get that clock sped up in his head and starts to get a little bit of happy feet, that's when you fall into danger. Also, offensively, the Saints are going to have to run the football. That is up to Clint Kubiak and his offensive staff of coming up with exotic and creative ways to make sure that the Saints find success in the running game. Because once again, if you find yourself down 14-0, you're playing into the hands of the Dallas Cowboys. You are asking Derek Carr to throw the ball over 25, 30 times, maybe even 35 times. It depends on the severity of the situation. And that's something that you do not want. You do not want Derek Carr throwing the ball all over the yard, because that is how you found yourself in a situation last year. We don't want to see that. We want to make sure that you have a balanced attack. You want to make sure that you have that balanced attack so it makes things easier for Derek Carr. Take what the defense gives you. You don't have to go out there and have explosive plays every time. If that means that on a 2nd and 5, you have to chunk it down to Juwan Johnson for the first down, go ahead and take it. So Clint Kubiak and his staff are going to have to find ways of making sure that they can run the football, maybe, scheming a play away from Michael Parsons, who lines up all around the field. Look, I expect Michael Parsons to be, a game wrecker in this game. You're not going to stop a guy of this magnitude. I don't care who you have as the offensive line. You can have one of the greatest offensive lines of all time. He is going to get his. But you got to make sure that he doesn't disrupt the game to a point where it just completely takes you out of the game. Defensively, the secondary, I expect for them to be able to step up. Not sure if Marshawn Lattimore is going to play in this game. Upon making this video, his status is still in the air. So is Tallahassee Fuaga, which we'll talk about in just 1 second when we get back to the offensive line. But, that's up to Paulson Adebo. Look, I got a lot of confidence in Paulson Adebo. I think that Paulson Adebo has took giant steps towards where he needs to be as a corner. So much so that, if the Saints decide to move on from Marshawn Lattimore next year, I got a lot of confidence in Paulson Adebo being that number one corner week in, week out, alongside the young guy Kool-Aid McKinstry, who will be playing in this game. So I think that, Paulson Adebo will be up to the challenge, but I think that this is mostly directed towards Alontae Taylor when it comes to CeeDee Lamb, because CeeDee Lamb lined up in the slot quite often last week, which tells you that they want to use him on the inside and outside. So Alontae Taylor should be up for the challenge. He had a really good game, his best game as a pro last week. I think that he has embraced the slot corner position. I think going into his second season at that position, now he is very familiar with it and he's more comfortable. So he's going to have to be on his A game. He's going to have to put forth a really good effort this week if their Saints are going to try to take down the Dallas Cowboys, once again, you got to be able to tackle these guys. You got to show discipline. I think the last time the New Orleans Saints played the Dallas Cowboys, there were a lot of missed tackles. And honestly, there wasn't enough aggression when it came to catching the football. Those guys were making those contested catches, but I don't feel like the New Orleans Saints cornerbacks and safeties were being aggressive. You got to be able to be aggressive to make sure that these guys don't come down with the football. You got to be, that gnat in the face, in the ear, like that gnat, that you keep on swiping across your face. That's how the Saints secondary is going to have to be. They're going to have to show the Dallas Cowboys that they are going to be physical in this football game. Also, you got to be able to get pressure on Dak Prescott. It's not just about discipline in the secondary. You got to get him off his spot. Now, Dak Prescott can scramble around. Of course, we know that he's a big physical guy. He's not what he once was when it comes to scrambling, for first downs or what have you, since that ankle injury that he sustained a few years back. But he still can run. And if you are playing man coverage, he can get out there. So you got to make sure that you at least have somebody that is eyeing Dak Prescott. You don't want those aggravated first downs. I mean, what I mean by aggravating first downs, which means everybody's back is turned. So the quarterback just starts streaking up the field, leaky yards, as I like to call them, 15, 20 yards, on a scramble. So got to make sure that you keep an eye on him and also get pressure on him. Last week, the New Orleans Saints, even though they were impressive versus Carolina, they didn't get any sacks from the defensive front. I can see them actually getting pressure on Dak Prescott. This is where Chase Young comes into play. His familiarity with the Dallas Cowboys for his many years with the football team and the Commanders. So he says he's not worried about the Dallas Cowboys. I hope that's a good thing, and hopefully he wreaks havoc. And also, Carl Granderson, like, this is why you got paid. This is why you're the top guy right now on the defensive line. So he got to make sure that he's getting pressure. The Cowboys offensive line has gotten better, but also, it's not like they're world beaters at this particular point. They still have some young guys on their offensive line. Their center is young. Their left tackle, Tyler Guyton, he's young. They're still trying to figure it out. So the New Orleans Saints are going to have to find a way to try to get pressure on Dak Prescott and force him into a mistake where they can get the ball back to their offense. Also, they're going to have to control the top, man. Turpin, a really good return guy and also a speedy receiver. He can get behind the defense. He is the Dallas Cowboys version of Rashid Shaheed, and he will hit his head on the goalpost. So the Saints are going to have to, look out for him when he is in the game, because while you're paying attention to CeeDee Lamb, while you're paying attention to Brandon Cooks, this guy can beat you over the top, and he has really good hands. He's a reliable target for Dak Prescott, and Dak counts on him in big-time situations for explosive plays. So they're going to have to take a look at that as well. As far as the Saints, I say running the football is key, but, you need your offensive linemen to stay intact. We know that Lucas Patrick, the left guard of the New Orleans Saints, he was on the injury list, as well as left tackle rookie Tallahassee Fuaga, who has been dealing with a back injury. We heard it for the first time during training camp, during preseason. We heard that, he was dealing with a back issue. He missed a game. I think he missed a game versus the Tennessee Titans, the final game of the season, preseason rather. He didn't play in that game, and now it comes up again. Now, I don't know if he's going to play in this game. Hopefully he does, because he makes a immediate impact. This guy doesn't play like a rookie. I look at Tallahassee Fuaga and what he brings to the table. This is what you want your offensive line to kind of be constructed of. Guys that are similar to him, super athletic, big guys that the moment isn't too big for him. So if the Saints do not have Tallahassee Fuaga out there on the field, they're going to be in trouble, because Landon Young will be his replacement. And, no disrespect to Landon Young. He played formidable when Lucas Patrick went out last week versus Carolina, but that game was pretty much insurmountable at that time. It's a completely different beast when you're lined up against Michael Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence. So hopefully Tallahassee Fuaga can play, but if not, then that's up to Clint Kubiak and his offensive staff to come up with a game plan. I'm pretty sure going into the week, knowing that there's a chance that Fuaga might not play, you had to find some other alternative and come up with another game plan just in case he's not upright and playing in this football game. Also, the wide receiver position for the New Orleans Saints. Chris Olave only had 2 catches for 12 yards last week. Rashid Shaheed was the primary target. Of course, he had that explosive play very early in the game, that big 56-yard touchdown. Also Juwan Johnston, Foster Moreau, they took a part in the passing game as well, something that we haven't seen as Saints fans for a long time. The tight ends being heavily involved in the offense, that can pay dividends for the Saints down the stretch. And also Dallin Holker, man, I noticed that, he had a light practice on the first day of practice when the injury report came out on Wednesday. He had a light practice, and then he had 2 full practices on Thursday and Friday. So maybe this is an indication that, you might see Dallin Holker play in this game, because, you also have to think about the fact that Foster Moreau suffered a concussion, man. And maybe if Dallin Holker can come out there and provide something, maybe the Saints feel like maybe we can kind of, have a little bit of a downtick of Foster Moreau's production this week, just, to be on the safe side, him dealing with that concussion. Also, Juwan Johnson had a touchdown last week. That's some momentum that they can actually build on. Look, I expect for Chris Olave to be involved in this game. The Saints didn't really utilize him as much because, that was just the way the game plan was. But we know what Chris Olave brings to the table. There's been a lot of chirp going on over there in Dallas. Trayvon Diggs basically, asking the media after they asked him, what do you think about Chris Olave? What kind of threat does he bring to the table? And he responded, is that a trick question? I don't know if that was a shot or not, but I know a lot of people, anytime, you ask a person that's going to be lining up against another, if they don't just flat out just start singing their praises, then all of a sudden it's an insult. I don't know if I really took it as an insult, but I can understand people that did. I think that he was saying, is that a trick question? More so like the dude is like really, really talented. Like, why would you even ask me that type of question? But a lot of people took it in a way like, he's basically looking past Chris Olave, which I think that's a huge mistake. Chris Olave is a very disciplined wide receiver, really good routes, really fast guy. And, I think that he's going to rise to the occasion. I think that last week, Derek Carr didn't really utilize him. I'm pretty sure there was some conversation between them or, the offensive staff about getting Chris Olave involved. And if you can get Chris Olave involved, man, and come up with some plays, I mean, I guarantee you he can find success and go over 100 yards versus the Dallas Cowboys. So all in all, who do I feel is going to win this football game? Look, man, I know everybody's saying that the New Orleans Saints don't have a chance, but not me. Look, I think that the Saints are going to win this football game. I think that it's going to be nip and tuck. I think it's going to be close. I just think that anybody that just believes that the Dallas Cowboys, even though they have won 16 straight games at home, are just going to go up in there and just steamroll the New Orleans Saints, I would be shocked if that happened. I don't think it's going to happen. I think that the New Orleans Saints are going to come out of this phone booth type game with a victory. It's probably going to come down to a field goal. So I'm going to say 24-21. The black and gold move to 2-0 and pull off the heist of the century here and move to 2-0. But I would love to hear from you. What do you think about the New Orleans Saints? Do you think they have a chance to win? Do you think they will be victorious over the Dallas Cowboys? Or do you feel like the Dallas Cowboys are just at a point right now where they're just absolutely dominant and the Saints don't have a chance? Comment down below, like and share this video. Thank you so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast, brought to you by and powered by BETUS. Like I mentioned, the game today, the New Orleans Saints taking on the Dallas Cowboys. And as of today, the Saints are +6. So that means that they are 6-point underdogs to knock off the Dallas Cowboys. Now, all you have to do is go to BETUS. You can place your bets here. If you feel like the Saints are going to cover, you can place your bet. If you feel like the Saints aren't going to cover, you can place your bet here. Okay, BETUS. You can sign up and get up to 150% sign up bonus on your first 3 deposits up to $2,000. So once again, the Saints are +6. They are underdogs going into this game. Do you feel that way? Go to BETUS. You can place your bets there. The description will be down below. You can use the promo code YouTube150. That's YouTube150. But thank you so much. You all take care. Enjoy the game. We'll be back for the post-game show live as we break down the Saints versus Dallas Cowboys. Hopefully, we're breaking down the Saints' victory. Till next time, all I got to say is, who dat?
Thank you for listening to my daddy's podcast.
Hey, don't let these tears fool you. It's all dog around this mug. I'm good.